The National Shrine of the Immaculate Conception welcomes you to participate in a reflection based upon the Liturgy of the Word for Passion Sunday, the beginning of Holy Week. Lent is the final preparation for Easter for the catechumens, who now are called the elect, as they want to receive the sacraments of initiation at Easter time. It also is an occasion for the already initiated to prepare to renew the promises that we made long ago. This can be, however, an especially stressful time for the catechumens who are under tremendous pressure, inwardly and perhaps from outside, from family, from neighbors who question their decision. Many years ago, when I began working here at the National Shrine, I received a phone call from a man in Montreal just before Easter. He indicated that he was from a Jewish background and was part of the group preparing for initiation into Catholicism, but he was having second thoughts about this and was not at all sure that he wanted to proceed. And so I tried to dialogue with him on the phone and used various approaches, comparing his situation perhaps to the young people just before getting married who might have butterflies and jitters and who needed to calm down, and that they would feel much better after they had said their I do's. And if that was not enough, I also suggested that this process that he had begun did not necessarily have to be finished this particular year or at this particular moment, that if he needed more time to reflect and feel at ease with his choice, he could take that time. But as I listened to him, I had the impression that his distress was so deep that I wasn't really getting anywhere. So all I could do was pray with him and for him. Some of the people who are listening today might resonate with this. Perhaps they too feel unsure. And so I would just remind them of the encouragement that has been provided on the various Sundays of Lent. A few Sundays ago, on the fourth Sunday, we remembered the wonderful story of the prodigal son, how he had run away from home and then finally had a change of heart. And despite the opposition of his older brother, was willing to reconnect with his father and take his place at the family table. On the fifth Sunday, last Sunday, the gospel reminded us of the woman caught in adultery and how the people who accused her wanted to destroy her according to a rule of the Jewish law that would permit stoning. But Jesus was in no hurry to destroy her. And in fact, we know that he was willing to take her place. He would be condemned. He would be crucified in place of us. On this Passion or Palm Sunday, we use the Passion narrative itself as a tool for working through our hesitations and second thoughts. The liturgy is most interesting in that it begins with a second gospel, the welcoming of Jesus into the city of Jerusalem, where he enters riding on a little donkey and is greeted with enthusiasm. But we notice as we proceed that things changed, and the very people who welcomed him would resist him a few days later. So there's a back and forth of sentiments concerning Jesus that perhaps reflects the same debate within the catechumens today who have to deal with their true feelings. And so the Passion narrative that we use this year is from the Gospel of Luke, in which we see all of this coming together, these different reactions to Jesus, negative and positive, and in between, the back and forth. We see the establishment of the Jewish religion and political scene, most of whom will remain rigid in their opposition to Jesus. But most of the people, the ordinary folk, despite their hesitation, their confusion, their fear, will eventually be able to accept him. And as we listen to the narrative, there are certain people who stand out in this regard. First of all, the disciples themselves, who should have been the most committed, seem to be the most fragile. He is completely betrayed by one who will never come back. He is denied 3 times by another. And who knows where the others were when finally he was nailed to the cross. But they did come back, didn't they? And then we also meet at the end of the story Joseph of Arimathea, one of the prominent figures in the Jewish establishment, who up to this point was very careful in his interest in Jesus, but after the death will stand up and be willing to give to Jesus the grave he had prepared for himself. The Gospel of Luke also underlines the 2 criminals who were crucified with Jesus. Both of them must have been negative towards him at first, and one remained thus to the end. But the other one we call the good thief had a change of heart, and he could see that Jesus, unlike himself, was innocent. One of the soldiers who crucified him and must have thought negatively of him at first, after the death of Jesus says, this truly was the Son of God. And what about those brave women who, during the public ministry of Jesus, were willing to forget themselves and their own comfort and own security to follow him and care for him? They are there at the foot of the cross. They're willing to be maybe pushed and shoved and threatened, but they remain firm. All of these people, I think, can help those who are undecided and not sure. They can identify with the gospel narrative, and perhaps this Holy Week, as they revisit the Passion, perhaps on Good Friday, will help them believe that they can overcome whatever inside them and around them would separate them from their allegiance to Christ and make it possible for them to say what was said by the crowd when he entered at the city, "Hosanna to the King of David." We thank you for participating in this last Sunday reflection and hope that you will be part of the Good Friday presentation that comes next.